Lyon, France, March 1943. At 3 in the morning, the printing press would begin. It was never loud, it could not be. Just a steady, deliberate rhythm, ink pressing against paper beneath wooden floorboards that had held the weight of ordinary lives for decades. Upstairs, the Martin family lay awake. They were not members of the resistance. They were not political. They were not heroes. They simply lived above it. In 1940, after France surrendered, Lyon became part of what was known as the Free Zone, officially governed by the Vichy regime, unofficially shadowed by German authority. Henri Martin owned a small bakery on Rue Sainte-Hélène. He was 41. His wife Claire managed the accounts and the ration paperwork. Their son Luc was 12 and wanted to become an engineer. Before the war, mornings smelled of fresh bread and roasted coffee drifting from neighboring shops. After the armistice, mornings smelled of scarcity. Flour was rationed, sugar was rare, butter nearly disappeared. Henri learned to stretch dough thinner. Claire learned to stretch patience. They told themselves what many families told themselves: keep your head down, avoid attention, endure. In November 1942, German troops occupied all of France. The atmosphere changed almost overnight. Uniforms appeared in cafes, curfews grew stricter, whispers replaced conversations. That winter, the storage room beneath the Martins' apartment acquired new tenants. The landlord described them vaguely as paper suppliers. The first night the machine ran, Claire mistook it for plumbing. Henri did not. The rhythm was too precise, too intentional. 3 nights later, someone knocked. A young man, no older than 25, stood in the hallway. His coat was worn, his eyes alert. "We are printing information," he said quietly. "News from London, updates, instructions. If the police come, you must say you know nothing." Henri studied him for a long moment. "Will it be loud?" Claire asked. "No." Henri stepped aside. The press operated 3 nights a week. Below them, ink dried on sheets that would be folded and hidden in coat linings, slipped into mailboxes, tucked into train compartments. Above them, Luc memorized mathematics formulas. Claire mended clothing by candlelight to save electricity. Henri rose at 4 every morning to knead bread while listening for unusual footsteps in the stairwell. They adapted without speaking about it. They avoided flushing water late at night. They did not move furniture after dark. They discouraged Luc from inviting friends over. Silence became routine. Once, Luc pressed his ear to the floor. "It sounds like a heartbeat," he said. Henri answered, "Then let it beat." In early 1943, Lyon became one of the central hubs of French resistance activity. So did the repression. The Gestapo headquarters on Avenue Berthelot intensified operations. Arrests increased. Informants were rewarded. Rumors traveled faster than facts. A printer in another district was captured. A courier disappeared. An entire network in Villeurbanne collapsed within a week. One afternoon, police trucks stopped outside a building 3 streets away. By evening, that building was sealed. That night, the machine below the Martins' apartment did not start. The silence pressed harder than the noise ever had. Claire did not sleep. 2 days later, the young man returned. "One of ours was taken," he said. "We must move the equipment temporarily and the papers. If they search here, everyone in the building is at risk." Henri understood what that meant. If discovered, they could be charged with aiding illegal publication, punishable by imprisonment, deportation, or worse. They had a choice. Report them, demand they leave, pretend ignorance. Henri opened the bakery cellar instead.
Behind stacked flour sacks, there was room. For 3 nights, bundles of printed leaflets were hidden among deliveries of bread sent across the city. Henri did not distribute them personally. He did not read every word, but he made space. June 1943. Just before dawn, boots in the stairwell. Heavy, measured. Luc froze mid-step. Claire placed a steady hand on his shoulder. Voices downstairs, doors forced open, furniture overturned, orders shouted in German. Henri stood in the kitchen, hands visible on the table. Minutes felt like hours. At last, footsteps climbed halfway up the stairs, then stopped. After nearly an hour, officers left with 2 men in custody. The printing machine was gone. The room below stood stripped and silent. The Martins' door remained untouched. They never learned who had spoken or who had not. The building changed. Neighbors avoided eye contact. The bakery reopened each morning as if nothing had happened. Henri burned the remaining hidden leaflets in the oven, watching the paper curl into ash. Luc asked only once, "Were they good men?" Henri answered, "They believed something." That was all. In 1944, Allied forces and resistance fighters liberated Lyon. Celebrations filled the streets. Flags reappeared in windows. Henri kept the bakery open that day. He did not march. He did not speak publicly of the press that once beat beneath his floorboards. In 1962, a former resistance member entered the bakery. He was older, slower. He placed an envelope on the counter. Inside was one of the leaflets printed in that room in 1943. At the bottom, in small type, "Printed in Lyon." No names, no signatures. "Without buildings like yours," the man said quietly, "we would have nowhere to stand." Henri nodded. He placed the leaflet in a drawer behind the register. He did not display it. He did not tell Luc's children. History remembers explosions, sabotage, dramatic arrests. It rarely remembers ceilings. The Martins were not fighters. They did not organize. They did not fire weapons or carry messages across borders. They allowed a machine to run. They chose not to ask questions. In occupied France, survival required silence. Sometimes silence protected collaboration. Sometimes silence protected resistance. The difference was rarely visible from the outside. Ordinary families, ordinary buildings. Above them, life continued. Below them, history was printed in ink that could not afford to be loud. Ordinary lives, extraordinary times.